Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. This is Jeff Johnson from Timlin Enterprises. Today, we're going to really talk about SharePoint intranets in this day of a lot of remote workers. So I am going to turn off my video for bandwidth purposes and jump right in. All right, so again, hi, my name is Jeff Johnson. I work for Timlin Enterprises. Timlin is a Microsoft Gold partner headquartered in Massachusetts. My current role is Vice President of Sales, responsible for all sales and account management. So Timlin has been doing this for many, many years, well over 15 years for most of us. So lots of experience with intranets, portals, collaboration solutions, business process automation, and so on. I'll let David introduce himself as well.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to join the webinar today. My name is David Solker. I'm Director of Technology Solutions at LiveTiles. We are a Microsoft partner ISV that specialises in a number of different solutions built primarily on Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Azure. And my job's really just about listening to the needs of our clients and our partners and aligning those to the capabilities of our platforms. And really looking forward to presenting today. Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you, David. All right, so our agenda today, we only have a half hour. So we really, this came out of a white paper that our two companies kind of collaborated on together, where we tried to identify some 9 best practices for intranets in the current age. So we kind of consolidating some of those thoughts, and we're going to present what we think are 4 key things and try to leave you with some valuable information. Hopefully you'll learn something. Hopefully you'll get some ideas. We're going to start and talk about what an intranet is in the current world and how it fits into your other digital workplace. And then again, we'll get into some of these tips. We'll be showing some demos. We'll be talking a little bit. We're also going to mention some things you can do with Microsoft 365 and third-party applications to kind of extend the capabilities of the platform. So, and of course, we'll want to get your questions. So you actually should be able to hit questions there and type those in. Time permitting, we'll answer as many as we can at the end of this. All right. So I wanted to start. Obviously, we're in crazy times. This has been an image or something that's been out there. LinkedIn shared a lot. Some of you may have seen this, but it's actually extremely accurate and somewhat funny, to be honest with you. You know, digital transformation is a buzzword that's been out for a long time. You know, there's a reality to it, right? It's digitizing your business processes. It's making you really a digital company so that when things like a coronavirus come and all your employees are remote, you actually can handle that. Well, I can tell you firsthand, somebody who talks to a lot of customers, you know, this is actually very true. COVID-19 accelerated companies crazy fast. We've had multiple customers of ours that didn't even have a new intranet in the budget for 2020, and we started getting calls, you know, in the February timeframe that it was a priority for them, and so we've been building intranets for them. We've had clients that, you know, were planning out a Teams rollout in 2020, and you know, the rollout became, let's start Monday. So things have moved really, really fast. It's obviously changed a lot of things. Organizations that were further mature have been better off in this, and others have been challenged. And David, you've probably seen similar things with LiveTiles and all your customers?
We have, and I think the key point for me, Jeff, is that, you know, what we're able to do is meet clients where they are at in terms of their maturity with adopting different tools to make the workplace more productive and more efficient. And you know, what's happened with the COVID-19 public health crisis really just accelerated the need for organisations to make some decisions, put in place some systems, but we really can work with organisations no matter where they are in that journey, Jeff.
Yep, it's been crazy times for sure. So, okay, so talk a little bit more about like what is a digital workplace, which is, you know, we feel the intranet is part of that. So I wanted to kind of introduce this first. I pulled that definition you see at the top of the screen in italics from another site out there, and I thought it was really accurate. You know, it's a set of tools. It is a technology. It is an environment for work But in reality, I feel like the second line in that sentence is actually really the critical piece, because it's going to be delivered in a very coherent, understandable, easy to use manner. And most of the times, 90% of the times when we get brought into places and customers are challenged with whether it's their intranet or collaboration, or they've identified some pain. The pain is really not the technology. It tends to be, they've got 72 tools that one could possibly use. So 60 of them are being used and nobody knows where to find things. Just classic things like that. So I thought that was a good definition of it. And really, where we see it is that those bottom of this slide where you see the communicate, collaborate, and connect. Those are kind of the three key components that we see of a digital workplace that if you really want to be successful in a current remote work environment, you really need to think about. Communications, it tends to be employer to employee communications, pushing information out to people, whether it's HR, marketing, sales information, corporate information, COVID-19 information, whatever it might be, but that kind of communication, which, you don't have that in the office as much anymore, so you need to really focus on that. Collaboration solutions, obviously, this is probably a heavy Microsoft crowd on the webinar today. Obviously, Teams has been the adoption and the growth in that has just been extraordinary. But whether it's Teams, whether it's SharePoint, whether it's Slack, whether it's Confluence, whatever your product might be, ensuring your folks can collaborate easily and efficiently. And really what the workplace gets down to all across is just efficiency, right? Efficient, productive employees, happy, productive employees. And the third piece and the connection piece is really building that culture and connections. And that's definitely very hard if everybody's remote. And you probably have to work a little harder on that. I just can tell you, for somebody who's been doing consulting for a long time, you go into an organization and you can almost tell how successful they are financially just by how it feel of what their culture is. And it's not a very quantitative thing. It's much more of a, feel thing, but it really gets down to, less turnover, happy employees, people that are willing to step up, people that are going a little the extra mile, and it makes a huge difference around there. So, summary, like the intranet is part of a whole digital workplace experience. And I don't know, David, I talked a lot there. Maybe if you have anything to add there, or.
I think you've nailed it, Jeff. I think that, we live in a world of information overload and so many different ways that you could, go about achieving something. And so what an intranet does is allow the organisation to define some standards around how we're going to communicate, collaborate, and indeed automate processes, and to enforce those standards in something very real and tangible like an intranet platform. And certainly in the organisations that we work with that have good intranets, their staff are absolutely more effective because they can get to the things they need to do their job effectively, and doing your job effectively is I think one of the keys to feeling as though you're making a difference in the world and in your work life. And an intranet, as we know, is only one small part of that, Jeff, but an important part of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on the standards there, and especially when those standards just make sense, easy to use, easy to understand. People are going to be that much more productive. So, okay. So next, I want to talk a little bit about intranets in the current world where technology is so pervasive, where technology has gotten a lot better, where everybody's working remote. So one of the key things that we really like to see and we really promote is, intranet should be your central starting point. It should be your jumping off place. It should be your hub, where I need to find David, right? Well, if I go to the intranet, I can find him. I need to find information about our HR policies. Well, if I go to the intranet, I can find that information. I need to, I'm a new employee and I need to figure out how to do my job. Well, I can go to the intranet and do that. As a little side comment, as Timlin works a lot in the life sciences companies, these companies tend to grow really fast. I mean, I've talked to a number of companies that have, 20, 30 new employees since COVID started, and none of them have been in the office. So, having a place where people can go and find things and feel part of an organization is even that much more important. I talked a little bit on the last slide about, push communications. So whether that's news, announcements, events, it's all like getting information out to people from essential source, stopping email communications, newsletters, like making it in one place very easy to understand is a huge, huge help out there. David, I know you guys do a lot of stuff on policies and procedures and got some really neat tools. You want to talk a little bit about that?
We do, and I'll actually just share my screen and just touch off on a few of the other things that you've got up there. The importance of a hub and employee directory, but as it relates to policies and procedures, one of the questions that we often get asked by clients who are looking to implement an intranet is where should we start? And in terms of content, they're not even sure where to begin. And one of the things, beyond news and events and announcements and directory is policy and procedure, because almost all organisations that I've ever worked with have policies and procedures, and at some point in their course of employment, an employee will absolutely need to interact with those and find information from them. So, Jeff, I might actually just share my screen now. Okay. And just take you through a few little concepts here. You're able to see my screen of the LiveTiles intranet?
Yes.
Fantastic. I think back to your earlier point about an intranet being a hub, and that means a hub for multiple different things. It's not just about communication. It's about giving people access to those things that are very practical in their workday. So yes, here, if you look at this intranet example here, I can receive communications from perhaps the corp comms team, the human resources team, or the marketing team. But I can also do very practical things like, get straight to IT help. I can request leave. I can, perhaps update my HR details all from a single click. So that speaks very much to the concept of an intranet as a hub that aggregates a lot of disparate information, tools, and business processes that, while they're in a disaggregated state, employees are going to waste a lot of time in context switching and a lot of time in unnecessary traversing of different systems. The intranet really can act as that aggregator to solve some of those problems around time cost and certainly context switching, which is not good for productivity. Jeff, just before I sort of jump into talking about the importance of a expertise directory and why that could also be really great in terms of intranet capabilities. Did you want to talk about the importance of that from your perspective?
Yeah, no, I think you hit on the main things and great examples. Like the context switching is a huge challenge. Not knowing where to go, a huge challenge. So if you have one place to go, you just keep it really simple, and people can find what they need. They're just going to be so much more effective, and they're going to come back because they know they can find what they need. So, yeah, I think you've shown some great examples there.
And Jeff, just before I hand back to you in the slides, just by way of another visual example of a really good starting point and something that we think is an absolute must-have on any intranet is a good quality expertise directory. But it's not just about making it easy to find folks with a particular skill. And just by way of example here, here's some work I've done recently with a small construction company, and you can see that they have been able to include attributes relevant to their industry, and we make it easy to customize. But the value of a good expertise directory goes well beyond just being able to look people up. It's actually much more related to the value of having true, accurate, current employee profile information. Particularly for anyone on today's call who has invested in Microsoft 365 as a broader productivity platform. To give you some very practical examples of that, and we're actually going to come back to this, Jeff, I know you're going to talk about this, but one of the things that corporate communications teams and marketing teams and HR teams always want to do is target content effectively at people. If you don't have your employee profile data correct with accurate definitions of, what departments people are in, what locations they're in, what roles they're fulfilling in the business, then it's very hard to achieve some of those more intermediate and advanced intranet features like targeting channel-based communications. Mm-hmm. Additionally, another reason to start with having a great directory and inferring from that we have accurate user profile data that's kept true and up to date through time is that process automation based on form and workflow based applications, it might actually be successful based on having accurate definitions of, where someone is in the organisation, what department they're in, who their manager is. So, the success of a process automation project could potentially be dictated by the accuracy of profile data. So policy and procedure and a great directory encompassing the concept of accurate profile data are really good starting points for any organisation that's embarking on a new intranet project, Jeff.
Yeah, without a doubt. I can tell you from experience that we have seen some of our customers not being able to automate processes like they want to due to the data not being there or in a good state for sure. So. You hearing me, David?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I got a bad network quality. Okay, and you're seeing my screen again?
I am, yes.
Okay. All right, so going to get into our tips. I'm going to run through this one quick. This is I'll call this the non-technology tip, but it's actually probably in some ways the most important thing you can do. And if you're getting started, get started with, with a purpose and buy-in. Really get a strategy down, figure out what your goals are, figure out what means success. And success might be over a period of time and multiple phases as well. But make sure you figure that out in advance. You're just not going in kind of, let's just build a new intranet and it has to look better than our current one. That's not how you want to do it. Definitely get people involved. Get your key stakeholders involved. They're going to be probably your content owners, some of them. Get them involved in governance and requirements. And governance is kind of a funny word, but it's really back to what David said before of standards and guidance. Like that's really what it comes down to, because that's where things tend to go off the rails when you haven't properly trained, documented, and put the standards in place. So people don't know what to do, don't know where to go to find things. If they have that hub, have that place to go, it has really nice search, it has that nice employee directory, it makes a huge difference. But get those people involved right up front, because those are the people that are actually going to drive the success of the project, the adoption of the project, the adoption of the solution. And one thing we always say at Timlin is like, we tend to look at things, we don't like to look at things as just a project. Yes, if you have no intranet or you absolutely have to have a new intranet because of COVID, there's probably going to be a small project to get you there. But a much better way to do it is to, yes, get that project done, but make sure you are constantly training, supporting, and improving. Training, supporting, improving, keep making sure that content doesn't come stale, keep adding new content as your business changes, as technology changes, as things come up to you. That's really where we see the most successful intranets. They're not necessarily the prettiest one on the eye. Sometimes they are, but it really gets down to that content being there for you and continuously improving. So anything else you want to add to that, David?
Jeff, what about the importance these days of personalizing the content experience?
Yeah, that's my next one. That's tip 2. So thank you for that intro. And, I know you're going to actually show some stuff here. But we kind of categorize as 2 types of personalization you can do. One is where you're prescribing, if you will, content to your users, and the other one's where they are subscribing or picking what they want to do. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. Role, geography, like I don't want to see the menu in San Francisco. I want the one in Cambridge, right? Simple things like that. But David, you want to show some of these capabilities there? Because I know you get some really neat stuff there.
Yeah, I'll flip through to this and just demonstrate some of these core concepts. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Gotcha.
So we have first the concept of prescription. So the organisation, based on who I am and the attributes of my profile, is making a decision about what I should see. So by way of example, the content that I see when I log into this example portal here may be different from what a colleague in another office sees or in a different role. And the organisation is prescribing that. We also have this concept of subscription, and I'm just going to give you a little example here. And you can see here that as a user, I can actually make some elections about what I choose to see, and it will update as I save that preference. Now, why does this matter? It matters for a very simple reason, and that is because once employees tend to get a sense that the intranet contains too much irrelevant content as it relates to their world and their role, they begin to lose confidence in it. And the problem there is that even if there is a lot of great stuff on there that you want them to read, the mere fact that the individual perceives that, oh, look, there's too much irrelevant stuff there for me, leads them to a decision that they may in fact not even go to the intranet. And so the inherent value of the intranet as a communications tool reduces with that problem. So effectively what we would say is that the value of content prescription and subscription is very much around keeping information relevant and contextual so that people keep coming back to the intranet as a trusted source of information there, Jeff. Yes. And I think just very quickly, I might just show one other example here, but that importance of targeting the content experience is something that we see as important across different applications and interfaces. So you can see here that I am actually in Microsoft Teams and I'm interacting with that same content from communications here that have been pushed out into the SharePoint intranet in Teams. And the reason why that matters, Jeff, and it relates to this importance of targeting and channel-based, is really this. People who are in a communications role, whose job it is to create messages, get them out and make sure they're understood, they really need to target content at people where they are working, where the eyeballs are, and increasingly, and particularly since the beginning of mass working from home and COVID-19, that isn't just the traditional intranet anymore. It is in fact tools like Microsoft Teams that folks are using for much broader sets of tasks like conferencing and chatting and collaboration. So it isn't just the element of prescription and subscription, it's also targeting content at folks where they are doing their work.
No, that is so key, and stuff you said before about, like, if people are thinking about their content, if you just take the couple words that David said, relevant and contextual, and just keep those in the back of your mind as you're thinking about it, you'll definitely come up with a better solution. And as far as like the Teams piece there, I remember getting asked a year ago, can Teams be our intranet? And I kind of I wasn't sure how to answer the question at the time because it was well over a year ago. Now I would say, well, absolutely, it could be where they go to get that information. It's just the source of the information. But if that's where they're working, keep them in one place, keep that context switch out, keep them in. It totally makes sense. Okay, so we're 2:26, so I'm going to go quick. So tip 3 is engage your team. So this is really the social side of it. You don't have the water cooler anymore. You need to make sure you build that culture, that sense of community. So yes, there are technology solutions, whether you use Yammer, Teams, whether you use Facebook Workplace, even people using, there's technology solutions out there, but the technology is not important. It's like getting people to use it. We have clients with hugely used and successful just SharePoint lists that do classified ads. That the things that are really important. People love to hear about new employees and what their background is. They love employee recognitions. They love, the employee of the month thing. So think about those things because they're really helpful to bring an organization together, especially in this time where a lot of folks are remote. So I'll jump on that one quickly because I do want to get into our last tip, which is really collaboration. And David, I don't know if you have other stuff you want to show here or talk to on this one.
I think one very simple message that I'll just share, Jeff, is really that that concept of the place where I go to receive the information I need to do my work effectively. So my corporate comms, my policies, my directory, my news, my documents. I'm not convinced that that should be separate from the place where I do my work, where I interact with my colleagues. In fact, I think it should be the same place to avoid the costs of constant switching between applications, etc. So just by way of example here, you can see very much a very traditional intranet type concept here of being able to interact with different sources of published information, but it's actually being presented inside the much broader collaboration tool of Microsoft Teams. And what that means to me as an individual is that I don't keep needing to switch apps all the time. I can literally just go through to the Teams where I'm working perhaps with colleagues, perhaps with external parties, and in a single click get back to that intranet type content that you see here. And so that's something that I think is probably important as you embark on an intranet journey. And I'm glad you corrected me on the use of the term project, Jeff. They really aren't projects. They are ongoing platforms that need love and attention and constant iteration. As you embark on that as an organisation, I really do think that you should consider the worlds of communication and collaboration as very, very tightly linked. And that's just one of the examples that I'm showing here. Jeff, I realise we're getting close to time, and we may not get time to finish up on the the concept of incorporating other third-party apps and Microsoft 365 apps. But I did want to ask, with all your experience of delivering intranets over the years and other such portals, if you had to give one piece of advice to the folks on today's call about how to do it successfully, what would it be?
You know, I think I'd go back to what I mentioned just a few minutes ago, David. First of all, it's a great question, right? And it can be a hard question, but I would go back to, figuring out that strategy and getting that core key team of stakeholders engaged. Because then once you get them engaged and really get them involved and are building out, the content based on those owners, and you might have an HR owner, a VP of communications for the homepage, you might have a finance person, whatever it might be, they're going to actually bring in more and more people. And the most successful intranets we have, they kind of grow organically. And they start out, and they don't have to start out huge, some have, and then they grow even more, but they can grow over time and become more and more important and part. And I couldn't agree with more what you said. Like this day and age, people aren't going like, well, I'm going to collaborate now, or I'm going to communicate. It's all one thing. I'm trying to do my job. How can I get the right information to do my job as efficient as possible? So, and I don't know, you probably have a little different perspective on that, David. I'd be curious of what you think. What would be your answer? I'll throw it right back at you.
I probably, I agree with what you said, but I think there's one step before identifying the people is just identifying the information. And three little words here: content is king. In my experience, the good intranets and extranets type solutions that I've been involved in over the last decade have very much revolved around organisations with a strong content strategy. And what that means is being able to define the information that people need to do their job effectively, and work out how you're going to effectively present it. And importantly, to your point, who is going to own it in an ongoing capacity. As soon as it gets stale, doesn't matter how beautiful or how functional your intranet is, your intranet will begin to lose value. So content is king, and having a content strategy that encompasses not just the content, but who and how it's going to be updated is very critical. And just to offer three little tips there, Jeff, one of the things that we always recommend at the beginning of an intranet initiative is a content audit. And that's really a three-part process of defining what you've got, that is still valuable that you will need to bring across, what you've got that is no longer relevant and can be archived off and potentially forgotten about, and importantly, what do your people need in terms of information that doesn't exist yet and that you'll need to create from scratch. So in summary, content is king, and a content strategy is the foundations on which these successful intranet solutions are built, in my view, Jeff.
Yeah, that's a great view. Content is definitely king. You're absolutely correct there, and the right strategy around it is just so critical. So, hey, that actually good stuff. I know we're a couple minutes over, but that question probably leads into we're going to send everybody a copy of this presentation and recording. And if anybody's interested in, probably as a follow-up to that last discussion we just had on, how do I get started? What are the key things to do? We're offering anybody who attended, anybody registered a free discovery workshop. So we kind of go over some of the things that David and I just talked about there in a couple-hour session. We'll get yourself organized and set up for it. Make sure you have the right people, and then we'll bring the right people to the table on our side and try to have a productive 2-hour discussion where we can hopefully help you out. So feel free to sign up for that as a follow-up to this. David, anything else on your side?
No, thank you very much for everyone's time today. And as Jeff mentioned, please let us know. Obligation cost-free workshop where we can really just talk to you and perhaps help you map out some of the ideas you have around your intranet initiative.
Great. Yep. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending, and hope to hear from you soon. Take care.
Thank you.